putting passengers' lives in danger. No one agrees more than this man, the airport's new federal security director, Jerry Henderson. Henderson served 21 years as a naval flight officer, that he wants to make sure Arkansas airports are both safe and customer-friendly.
Our whole goal in this thing is to make sure we balance the proper level of security at the right time and also minimizing the hassle factor.
The deadline for federalizing airports is November 19th. Henderson, who oversees Little Rock, Fort Smith, and Northwest Regional airports, said all three will meet that deadline.
It botched paychecks for hundreds of state employees and caused trouble for the Huckabee administration. Now, creating a better future for ACES, the state's troubled computer system, is in the hands of a new director. News 4 Arkansas' Sincere Tonsil has been covering ACES troubles for us. Sincere, who's the new boss?
Bob, Carolyn Osborne comes to Arkansas from North Carolina with 3 decades of information technology experience at a state utility and her own consulting firm. With a handshake, Carolyn Osborne assumes a post fraught with controversy, mostly because of an over-budget, heavily criticized computer system 30,000 state users depend on.
Certainly, ACES is the centerpiece of e-government here in the state.
One that's prompted Osborne's predecessor, former ACES chief Randall Bradford, to sue.
One of my first acts will be to convene officials from the cabinet and to focus on ACES, to identify points of emphasis.
But open discussion about ACES is what Bradford claims he was told not to do through emails sent by the governor's staff, sparking a rift between himself and the governor, and finally his resignation. Today, Huckabee joked Osborne has already sworn allegiance.
In blood, yes. We had a ceremony just before we came out.
And the man whose legislation created Osborne's job is pleased.
And I'm excited that we've gotten somebody with CIO experience. The last CIO didn't have that background. And we've got somebody here who has experience in a large organization setting IT direction, and I think this is the way we need to head as a state.
Osborne will develop a plan to carry out a better vision for ACES, but won't have anything to do with the technical operation of ACES.
Sincere, didn't the former chief have somewhat of a problem with how things were set up, saying wasn't in contact or didn't have any kind of powers over the people that were running the system?
He did, but Osborne says she's not concerned. ACES, by the way, Bob, has been operating better in the last few months. You'll remember it balanced the books well.
All right, Sincere, thank you very much.
Pine Bluff's new police chief took over today after the city fired the former chief last night. Pine Bluff's Civil Service Commission fired Chief Nathaniel Clark because of a sexual harassment complaint filed by a former employee. That employee said Clark made inappropriate comments to her, and nothing was ever done about it. Daniel Moses replaces Chief Clark now. He served as assistant, that is until Clark fired him yesterday afternoon. The commission, however, rehired Moses to take over as chief.
West Nile numbers continue to climb. Dead birds tested positive for the disease in 4 new counties. They are Bradley, Clay, White, and Dallas. This means 28 of the state's 75 counties have a confirmed presence of West Nile. And West Nile is the cause of death of another horse from Pulaski County, bringing the total to 3 dead horses from West Nile.
2 embattled Razorback players learned their debt to the football teams paid. Mark Rushing joins us live from Fayetteville with more. Mark?
Well, Denise, as you know, sometimes these media events can be real snoozers, but not today, as Houston Nutt lifted the suspensions on Cedric Cobbs and Kenny Hamlin. He said this was one of the toughest decisions he's made at the University of Arkansas, going back and forth, especially with Hamlin. Do I suspend him 1 game, 2 games, 3 games? But finally, after seeing Hamlin serve his 10 days jail time and talking with the seniors late last night, he decided Hamlin had been punished enough. Ditto with Cobbs, who's withdrawing his appeal so he can begin serving his court-mandated punishment as well. Obviously a tough call for Nutt, but he knew that he was going to take heat either way, so he went with the decision that he thought was right, citing previous players, the examples of previous players who had problems that he gave a second chance to and went on to become productive players, students, and citizens. We'll hear from the head hog coming up in Sports Rush. Denise?
We'll see you then, Mark. Thanks.
For many Arkansas students, school starts Monday, so the back-to-school rush for supplies and clothes is underway. News 4 Arkansas's Kim Bowman spent the day seeing what all the fury is about. Kim?
Well, Bob, for students, it's all about fun new supplies, but for parents, it's all about the bottom line. We spent the afternoon shopping for back-to-school supplies. We bought the goods required for one fifth grader in Bryant and spent close to $60. One teacher says that's not a bad price, but you could spend more in the coming years.
Every year the school says we can't afford to buy this year, so it either has to come out of your class budget, your pocket, or on the parents.
And remember that $60 is just for one child. It doesn't include uniform or clothing costs. These expenses may be much for some families, so you can pick up an extra package of pencils or grab a few bottles of glue and donate them at our Park Plaza Mall for Schools program. The supplies will end up in the hands of some less fortunate students. Bob?
All right, Kim, thanks very much. And you can drop off your donated school supplies at Park Plaza at one of 4 mailboxes located near the escalators.
Those supplies are expensive. If you're not in a position to donate supplies, you may be in need of some supplies. The Salvation Army is willing to help you out, providing supplies to students from Little Rock, North Little Rock, and Pulaski County who cannot afford to buy those items themselves. You can pick up school supplies at the North Little Rock Salvation Army office on West 18th Street tomorrow and Friday. To be eligible, you must provide valid Arkansas identification, a Social Security card, student assignment verification, and, of course, your school supply list.
Back to school, a lot of things to do.
Hardly seems like it's time for that already.
I know. Summer goes by just like that.
Wow.
Coming up, a 1-month-old baby snatched from her mom's minivan is back in his mom's arms now.
We tell you about that rescue up next.
We still have a lot of clouds overhead, but really not that much rain in the state right now, but we're not going to completely dry things out as we head into your forecast first for the next couple of days. Chances of rain linger at about 30 to 40% across parts of the state, and as we head into your weekend, Saturday and Sunday, looking a little drier, but certainly a little warmer. We'll explain why coming up. Stay with us.
News for Arkansas, sponsored by Ashley's Home Store, by Advanced Gutter Systems, and by Southern Mobility.